My name is Rabbi Mendy Cohen, M-E-N-D-Y, which is short for Menachem Mendel, a very holy name. Rabbi Mendy Cohen, director of Chabad of Sacramento. We started here, we were sent here by the Lubavitcher Rebbe 17 years ago, March of 94. So we're in our 18th year. And I moved here out of Brooklyn, right out of seminary. We learned in yeshiva. And we started in the Federation room. And we now have we have 7 Chabad centers in the area that we've established with God's help. We have Chabad here, we have Chabad in Davis, Chabad in Stockton, Chico, Folsom, Vacaville. Did I say Davis? I did say Davis. So let's start again. Sacramento, Folsom, Roseville, Chico, Stockton, Davis, Vacaville.
Great. That's good number 7.
Yeah, like a menorah.
And you supervise all of those locations.
I helped start them, and I hope to inspire them.
And there's a rabbi on each of those locations.
A rabbi in each of those 7 locations, a rabbi with a family.
And so you have, where did you get your smicha?
My smicha, I was ordained in 77 World Head Lubavitch headquarters. Rabbi Pikarsky and Rabbi Hirschblum, the chief rabbi of Canada, tested me.
Okay. Do you know Rabbi Kunin?
Very, very well. I've been together with him in Russia for half a year while he was there to free the books. I was a student there helping students in Moscow and St. Petersburg, starting schools for them. It was right after Perestroika. So I became very close to Rabbi Kunin.
And your school was at, what seminary did you go to? Is there a specific seminary when you're ordained through Chabad?
The Chabad headquarters. I mean, I learned in my life, I was in Canada where I grew up till 14. Then I went to New York for 3 years. In the middle, I went a half a year to Israel. I loved studying in Israel. Then I went to Los Angeles for an internship for 2 years. But there I also knew Rabbi Kunin. Then I went back to New York for a couple of years. A half a year of those I was in Moscow, St. Petersburg, teaching people Torah, college students who never had the opportunity. Then I got married and learned another year in Kollel. It's a post-marital school. I learned there for another year, and then I came equipped over here to start doing the work. I got to show you a mikveh we just finished. It took us 10 years, but it's from the nicest mikvahs in the world.
And so it's a requirement, you've said it twice now, it's a requirement to be married with children to be a rabbi in a Chabad, is that correct?
I wouldn't use the word requirement, because there are Chabad rabbis without wives. Things happen. We're human. It just, the shlichus, the work is much better fulfilled if it's a man and a wife and a family. It brings the warmth and the stability of a family. But it's not a requirement.
Were you raised in an observant family?
My father was born in Tunis, and he was brought to the religion in Montreal at the age of 17, 18. And he got his PhD in rabbinics and his PhD in math and his rabbinic degree at the same time. So now he's a professor of theoretical math in Canada, but he was very observant. I grew up in an observant home. The answer is yes.
But your grandfather was not observant.
My grandfather, my father's side, was not observant. My grandfather, my mother's side, my mother grew up in a DP camp, Schwechenhab in Germany. Her father was a slaughterer, a shochet in Kharkov. He sat in jail in Moscow for 5 years. So, a very observant family. And his father was Rabbi Masmid, the world-renowned scholar. So, it's a mixed marriage.
A mixed marriage.
So, I'm Coco. Good.
Is there a particular philosophy or thrust ideology behind Chabad? And please tell us a little bit about that.
Chabad combines two things: deep philosophy and how every Jew has to have his own personal relationship to God. You can't say they invented the wheel, don't invent it again. Everyone has to reinvent his relationship to God. On the other hand, Chabad is known like our father Abraham. Our father Abraham had a big tent with a lot of food, and he invited everyone. So we're out there in all the outskirts, all the outposts of the world, taking care of people's physical needs and then tending to the spiritual needs. Chabad doesn't judge anybody. It's not theirs religious, and we're going to outreach. Hello, you down there, let's pull you up. Chabad says that every Jew is special. A religious Jew who's comfortable with doing stuff, and a non-religious Jew is not comfortable, and he does one mitzvah tefillin, that could be dearer to God than the whole religious person's, because he's not doing effort, he's used to it. So Chabad has a very unique, it's not outreach. Like someone once said, it's inreach, to reach to the neshama, the soul, that could be greater by the non-affiliated, non-observant Jew. It's just finding those coals and igniting them with the fire of God and the fire of Torah mitzvahs, whether it be through physical help, whether it be through spiritual help. So Chabad is very unique in that approach. I have a friend in India who's a Chabad rabbi, and an Israeli backpacker walked in limping. So I asked him, why are you limping? He says, no big deal. He says, no, tell me why you're limping. Anyways, the guy told him he was at a guru, and he had him stand like a pretzel for 10 days. He quickly took him into the taxi, brought him to the doctor. If he wouldn't go to the doctor, God forbid, it could have got worse. He would have had to amputate his foot, God forbid. When this young Israeli backpacker saw that Chabad was there to save his foot physically, he started learning Torah and doing mitzvahs. Here is a good example. This is Rabbi Nehemiah Wilhelm of Bangkok.
If someone were a beginner, what would be the first practice that you would recommend for them?
And he wanted to start observing Judaism?
Well, let's say he wants to know God better. In a more blanket statement. Maybe within the context of Judaism, I'm going to let you define it.
The best way to know God better is to study His Torah. You can't just say, I'll go to this guru for 10 days and I'll do some yoga, I'll get God. A human being, a creature from God, created from God, has no way of understanding God who's infinite, has no way of having a relationship with Him. The only way to have a relationship with God is by doing His commandments and by learning His Torah. So the first thing to get his soul jump-started would be to start doing things, action. Putting on tefillin, having a mezuzah on his door, lighting Friday night candles. Those are actions to jumpstart his fire in his soul. And to continue putting logs to the fire, you need to study daily Torah study. These are all 10 campaigns that Rebbe initiated, 10 mitzvah campaigns. And they are Friday night candle lighting, tefillin, mezuzah, kosher food. All these actions help the blockage of the antenna. You need to have a good antenna with God. You need to do those actions. Those actions put you in sync with God. And then you delve deeper into Torah study. Torah study every day is very important. Because God sent us here with a mission to change the world. Every single one of us is God's ambassador to the world. Therefore, we're a small nation. You ask people, how many Jews are there? Well, we're 6 billion. We see the Jews on the news always. Probably 3 billion, 2 billion. No one knows we're 14 million. We have a special power. It's a power given to us by God to change the world. And we cannot do that without God's Torah, God's mitzvahs. We need that help. The soul is amazing, but it needs that gasoline, that connection. So, there is no one shoe fits all. Start wherever you can. Do a mitzvah. Come to shul. Start a class. Attending classes. Slowly but surely you'll find your way, your niche. And you'll grow in your Judaism and your connection to God and your heritage. There are many children, they go away from the religion. They say, oh, we went to Christianity. We found there's so much depth. Look what they have. Daniel, Ezra, Nehemiah, so many beautiful scriptures. They were Jewish boys, Ezra and Nehemiah. So, unfortunately, there are many people that don't delve enough into their religion. They just make it a bunch of cocktail parties and golf tournaments to raise money, but they don't take the time to learn our heritage, and then they wonder why their kids are looking into cults and into other things. We have a very deep religion, and the world wants more. The world wants more than just a traditional. They want more. They want more depth, and they deserve it. And we try to make it as accessible to everybody as possible through our classes, etc., etc.
You said a moment ago that you thought that that God was beyond our capacity to know. But if you had to speculate, or perhaps you can use the speculation of others previous to yourself, what do you think the nature of God is?
When you say nature, what do you mean nature?
The nature of this table is that it is solid and flat and about 10 feet by 5 feet by 4 feet. That's, describe God's nature.
You see, the word description and God don't go together. You remind me of a story. There was this great philosopher. Someone asked him, could you describe me God? He said, what do you mean, how can I describe you? God is undescribable. He's infinite. You can't say he's infinite intellect, because then you're defining him. He's only in the world of intellect. He can't create a world. He could create a theory of evolution. He can't create. So he was begging this philosopher, please tell me what God is. The philosopher said, maybe. As soon as he started speaking, this other simple Jew gave him a smack. How dare you describe God? God's undescribable. But. Okay, don't smack me. But.
I wouldn't. I asked the question.
One thing we know about God. We cannot describe him. We know that what motivates him to create the world is because he's kind. Even though there are many actions that don't seem kind, but the whole reason the whole motivation is to be good to his creatures. So God's a very kind God, but sometimes we don't understand it.
What do you think our relationship to God is or should be?